Hello and welcome back to another episode of Bums Breakdown. Today we're going over the Hartford Athletic preview. As always, joined by Dylan. Again, to begin with, we'll go over the last game versus Indy XI. A 2-2 draw, which I feel like we've both got a lot to say about this one. So, Dylan, first thoughts on that Indy XI game, or Indy 10 come the end?
Yeah, good one. I'm ashamed to admit that after the red card happened, I turned to my friend and said, "Scenes when we draw this game 2-2," and then Loyal quickly proceeded to do that. So I accept a little bit of the blame for that one. But I mean, what can you say at this point? Like, I actually thought we played pretty good up until the red card. We're 2-0 up. That was a real slick goal from Conway, and it just fell apart. I don't really know what to say, honestly.
It's a tough one, and I mean, we can kind of speak about kind of performances and tactics and kind of how we line up in kind of maybe next decisions at times too. But end of the day, I mean, it's so hard to coach, I guess, to not make mistakes. Again, people are going to make mistakes no matter what. But the fact is, they keep coming up so frequently and costing us games. And I think really the answer is that if Nate can't fix us, who can? And if it's down to the players, and why have we not brought in another defender after Ebby's been ruled out for the whole season? Probably Ebby. I mean, we only got to see him a handful of times, but obviously we all know how good he was at the back and kind of how important he was for us. So I don't know, it's a strange one there. I mean, do you think Nate could have done anything differently that game to kind of maybe change the way it turned out?
I mean, it really felt like we just went on the back foot once the red card was given, and I mean that's no way to close out a game. I don't think even at even strength, let alone when you're a man up, there's no reason to let Indy dictate the play like we did. I mean, they honestly probably could have scored more than two goals. I know they were both penalties, but um, yeah, I don't. If they had won that game, I don't think you could say that they didn't deserve it. So I, yes, acknowledging like you said, everyone's going to make mistakes, but we put ourselves in positions to make mistakes, and it's just, I really didn't. I mean, I'm not a coach, but I really didn't like the approach at the end there.
Yeah, I know. I think we've spoken about before. As far as kind of, it felt like the approach to seeing out games has changed a little bit this season. I think we're kind of more on the front foot. But again, like this past weekend seemed a lot like last year as far as kind of bringing on defenders, kind of sitting a little bit, see the game out, kind of Landon style to seeing the game out. And Nate did the same thing, and it kind of shot. I mean, came back to hurt us. And I mean, kind of, I understand Charlie kind of off at half time. I thought he did very well, but maybe he's got some kind of a minute limit right now, come back from injury. But I think kind of Stoneman coming on when he did, kind of Toomey as well, being taken off, and I don't know. It's frustrating, I mean, Conway coming off early too for Damas. I think Conway could have easily stayed on longer, and I think it's more so a case of right, we're 2-0 up here. We can kind of maybe afford to sit back a little bit. We're a man up, but I mean, to basically be outclassed by 10 men against a team really who've only had one home win all season too. It's not like they're high and flying right now either. It's a tough one to kind of, I guess, a tough pill to swallow come the end. And I kind of got here really. I mean, for me, questions definitely being asked about Nate right now. I never want to be that guy to be like, all right, manager needs to go, get a new manager in. I'm definitely not kind of more than that right now, but I do think right now questions have to be asked a little bit. I mean, for you, what are you kind of making of the kind of feeling right now? Are you, if you were to blame someone, or kind of what would you make of the season so far, honestly?
I mean, I like you, am not gonna jump on the like calling for the manager to be sacked bandwagon. I tend to be pretty reserved on that anyway, but especially at this level, I think a lot of people are used to like watching Premier League teams where if you sack your manager, there's like a long list of people ready to take the job. That's not the case here. Like there are not a lot of really good coaches at this level who are like just hanging around available. So I think there's that to take into consideration. But also, like Nate's been here a long time. He's part of this project, and this really is his first year at the helm. But I think that's kind of showing. I know he had couple years experience as a head coach in Lansing, but I think he was like in his 20s then, maybe early 30s. So he's still a young coach learning, and I think he needs to I mean, I like just to say to learn is kind of like a vague thing, but he needs to like take games like that indie game and build that into who he is as a coach because clearly something wasn't right there. And even if it is just mistakes, like, I mean, like two mistakes isn't going to make us sit on our asses for 30 minutes like we did. So clearly something comes down to the manager. I don't want to say like I'm blaming somebody, but I think that everybody needs to take ownership when they get something wrong. And I would like to see a little accountability.
Yeah, it felt like the kind of previous kind of post match interviews have kind of been along the same lines. Kind of this mistakes we need to fix this. We know like people have owned up for it. But I mean, now you look at the table here, we're down to seventh in the table. I mean, am I worried yet? No, but I mean the kind of home playoff place is kind of looking a lot harder to come by right now. Again, no wins in the last 6 games, 4 points from a possible 18. Um, I think for me, really, is and again, I know we are in a tough stretch of games right now. I would say that Indy game was kind of, I wouldn't include that in our tough stretch of games if I'm being completely honest. Hartford definitely, I wouldn't say it's a must win, but against a team who are the second worst team in the whole of the USL with only 2 wins all season, it pretty much is a must win now. If we don't win this game here, I'll be honest. I think, I mean, people aren't turning on Nate right now. I know a few are from what I've seen in his comments, but I think people will always be that way when you haven't won in that many games. But I think if we don't beat Hartford, then something seriously is wrong there. So, am I worried about the Hartford game? If you asked me a few weeks back, no. But now, considering it's an away game, it's probably our furthest away game ever. And I know, obviously, I think the guy said it on the East Coast anyway. But again, Moon's out with injury, more than likely. Guido still injured as well. So kind of two of our key players out injured. Um, I'm a little bit worried right now. But for you, obviously, I know we've kind of the schedule. Would you agree that kind of we're going into an easier stretch of games now in the next kind of 3, 4, 5 games?
I mean, we've talked about it on this show more than a few times, but I think the term easier needs to be taken with a bit of a grain of salt. But I think to follow up on what you said, yeah, Hartford is about as close to as a must-win game as you're going to get halfway through the season. They're in terrible form. They just fired their coach. Uh, we need to get a good result and not just win, but like a convincing performance. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think there's still people optimistic, and I'll be honest. If you look at the table and look at the points between kind of the top of the table and where we are, there isn't that many points kind of separating us. But I think the most frustrating thing for me is knowing that we've dropped a possible 14 points in our last 6 games. We could easily be up in those top 3 spots if you cut out these mistakes. But at the end of the day, you can kind of score as many goals you want, kind of dictate play, control the game, play this beautiful style of play that everyone loves watching San Diego Loyal for. But if you're kind of going to constantly give up these defensive mistakes, it's kind of all for nothing, really. But again, moving on from the Indy game, we'll try and, I guess, keep it on a lighter note now into Hartford. I mean, so far this season, Hartford, we were kind of both watching the first half of the game versus Luton. I think at the time of recording, it was 1-1. But again, half so far the season, they are last in the Eastern Conference. They're the second worst team in the whole of the USL right now on 10 points, only ahead of Las Vegas Lights on 9 points. Like Dylan already mentioned too, they've already gone ahead and sacked their previous coach, Tab Ramos, who has a pretty decent kind of coaching resume as well. So far the season, again, they've had 2 wins, 5 draws, and 10 losses. So again, 2 wins a season isn't great, especially after 17 games there. And then they've scored 20 goals and conceded 34, which is the most in the whole of the USL. So again, pretty much the last Eastern Conference, second worst team in the league, points wise, conceded the most in the whole of the USL, and only 2 wins of the season. I mean, Dylan, would you say this is the easiest game we've had so far this season, as far as kind of on paper?
Yeah, I mean, it being across the country on the road is always a bit of a toss-up, but yes, on paper it definitely is. I don't know about the weakest squad, but it's right up there with one of the weakest squads we played on paper. Although they do have some really good standout players. We'll get into that in a bit, but the only team, or rather the second worst team in the East, is actually the last team we beat, Miami. So yeah, I the bottom of the East is definitely like last year, not as strong as the bottom of the West, but I would definitely say this is probably the weakest team we've played thus far.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that too much because I know we'll probably go ahead and jinx ourselves here. I mean, to be
Hmm.
to be honest, watching Hartford play in that Luton game, I don't think they're a bad team, and they've got some good players in there, and we'll kind of go through the lineup right now. What they lined up right now. They got Rice in goal. I know him and Sanchez have been kind of replacing every now and again, but I think Rice is kind of the chosen guy right now. Right back, Edgardo Rito, actually he's from Oakland, I believe. Very good
Yeah,
player.
I think it was a mid-season trade just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, he's a very good player for them. Two centre backs here, McGlynn and Lappert, and then Matt Sheldon at left back, and then some of you may know. I think he's pretty big social media presence now on YouTube. I believe he's possibly on TikTok too, but definitely been around the USL for a long time. And then the two kind of holding players here, Torres and Barrera. Barrera captain. These guys kind of do interchange as far as getting forward. I mean, one of them are more like being the pivot, but watching the Luton game, both of them kind of drop in here. Basically kind of the front three, front four here. Sadie on the right, Lewis kind of in that attacking midfield role, kind of just ahead of the two other midfielders there. Merrill on the left, and then Elvis Ammo up front for them as well. I know they've been kind of changing formations a bit here and there. So again, no idea how they're going to line up versus us. And to be honest, I think we kind of got no idea how we're going to line up as far as formation goes in that game. But Dylan, kind of looking at the lineup here, kind of from what you've seen of them, kind of how do they play really, and kind of who are the key kind of standout players for them right now.
Well, how they play is a little bit frantic, and I wouldn't actually say it's clear at this point. Like you said, having watched just the first half of that game against Luton, but they did just change coach, right? So it's maybe kind of that transition of ideas, or maybe it's an interim coach. I honestly don't. I don't even know who their head coach is right now, but yeah, they're big key guys. Elvis Amo came from Colorado Springs last year. He was part of that really lethal front four they had that they started to dismantle just before the playoffs for whatever reason. But he's a great player, great striker, good finisher, quick, good dribbler. Danny Barrera has been at Hartford for a long time and has been sometimes, some seasons, really their only good player, as far as I'm aware. They've had some rough years, but he's been there and always produces. And then one other guy is Antoine Hobano, a longtime USL player, has a longtime Louisville player. I think he won titles there. I know he was at Detroit last year. He was on the bench or is on the bench tonight against Luton. I don't know if he's carrying a knock, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him on the field. He's a very creative player. But as far as how they play, I think guys like Barrera and Hopino, if he's on the field, feeding Amo and Sadie are really what you will expect to see.
Yeah, I mean, I've got here basically their fullbacks get really high. I mean, Rito, for most of the time watching the game, he's been everywhere for them, and obviously he's going to be pushing on. And I think they do get caught out at the back a little bit with kind of those two fullbacks getting so high. But as far as kind of key players, I mean, Carl Edwards right now is a top goal scorer of 6 goals. He's not on the pitch for so far in the Luton game. Sadie, as already mentioned, 3 goals, 4 assists so far for them. Scored early on against Luton as well. And then Edgardo Rito here with 22 chances created from right back. I know some of them probably were for Oakland as well. But a solid team. I think the main issue really is the kind of fluidity of the team and kind of the just positioning and kind of getting caught out, which hopefully we can take advantage of there. I mean, Sadie's looking very deadly, kind of cutting in from that right-hand side, which I'm a little bit nervous about, especially them on the counter-attack, considering that how, I guess, susceptible we have been to the counter-attack as well. So it's going to be a tough one there. I mean, like I said, we know that these are somewhat the weakest team we will have played so far, but again, you still never know how it's going to kind of line up for us. And I mean, going back to kind of our lineup in the last game, looking at it, I mean, would you have kind of changed anything that we had in that last game as far as starters versus Indy, do you think?
I was a little surprised to see Stoneman on the bench. I guess maybe he was carrying a knock. Um, I was surprised to see Conway come off when he did. I hope he's not carrying a knock. But it was great to see Charlie back. I thought he played well in the minutes that he did put in. So, I hope all of those guys are fit. I know Moon probably won't be in, but as far as changes to the starting lineup, I think I would expect to see Stoneman coming back in, but and Ronaldo coming back in. But other than that, I don't know that I'd make too many changes. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'll get up here. I mean, we've kind of the main changes we made here really is kind of Charlie I mean, he started last game, but kind of a midfield kind of pairing of him and Corona. Again, it could easily be Colin Martin in there. I know kind of those guys have been switching around. And again, I think kind of questions still remain over kind of Corona's kind of, I guess, full fitness and his kind of ability to see out games, if I'm being completely honest. Um, but I don't know. I think we're going to have to go attacking. I think the Indy 11, the kind of lineup, saying kind of a bit more defensive. I was surprised to see kind of Riley and Elijah being the other two centre back pairings with Carl Adams there. I wouldn't say that. I mean, I mean, Elijah's been great at centre back, and I think Riley's kind of performed well. But I think right now, definitely they're more probably considered fullbacks, our current team. So again, I'd like to see kind of a 4-2-3-1. Ronaldo back up top with Conway on the left, Perez on the right, and then Toomey is in that kind of attacking midfield role, or easily could be Collier in there as well. If I'm being honest, if I look at this team right now, I'm gonna say if we play a 4-2-3-1, this is our strongest lineup, really. But Dylan, what would you change here? Like if you were to pick your strongest lineup right now, would this be it, or would it be a little bit different?
So assuming current like fitness, right? Because
I mean,
Moon is out.
yeah,
So Moon, I mean Moon is the person that comes to mind. But yeah, I mean I think you're spot on. Perez has been in good form. I think he's worked his way into the team. And I think that unless Ebby's going to make a surprise return, I think this back line, despite a bit of a collapse last time out, has given us a good bit of solidity. I think the first time we saw this was what, in that first San Antonio game or
yeah.
the second San Antonio game. So, you know, results have obviously not gone our way, but we've actually done a decent job ish defensively for the most part in this shape. So yeah, I do think this is probably our best 11 right now. You know, considering current fitness, I wouldn't mind seeing Toomey and Perez kind of switch their roles here, or maybe kind of play fluidly. I think Toomey, you've talked about this many times, is maybe best on the wing, and I think Perez has earned the trust to give him the chance to try and pull the strings because I don't see any reason why he couldn't do it. He's great on the ball and has a good eye for a shot, good eye for a pass.
Yeah, I mean, I think Perez is one that I think has surprised me a little, but I think he was kind of, I guess, hindered playing where he was kind of early on, kind of that kind of inverted wing back role. And definitely, I mean, he's played a bit more defensively, even against Indy as well. But I think if you can kind of get him on that kind of either right hand side, cutting inside, giving him space is where he kind of plays best. But yeah, I mean, I hope we play a 4-2-3-1 versus Hartford. I think it's going to allow us to kind of have a better way to win, honestly. And as much as I kind of do like the way we play with kind of a 5-3-2 at times, for some reason I just don't think it's the best formation for us right now. Which again, it's tough to say honestly. And like I said, it's not been an easy run of games for us. I do think that if we win the Hartford game, kind of going into Colorado, it gives us a good kind of, I guess, platform to build on there. But even then, I mean, Colorado aren't a bad team right now. I think they're above us in the table, or they're around the same spot as us. So those Colorado games are going to be, I think, definitely key to kind of at least cementing hopefully a home playoff match come the end. But I don't know. I mean, how are you feeling about going into the kind of post kind of Hartford into these Colorado games too?
Well, we've kind of touched on Hartford being not a must win necessarily, but a very important game. I really think these back-to-back games against Colorado Springs are pretty much going to set the tone for the second half of the season. If we can beat Hartford and get some momentum going, and then take 4 or 6 points from these two games against Colorado Springs, I think that sets the table really nicely for the end of the season. But if we go limping into those games and come away with 2-1-0 points, I'm really not going to have a lot of hope for us getting that home playoff game. And it really will probably at that point just become a fight to make the playoffs. So I think this Hartford game is important both because, like, looking back at the last 7 fixtures, we haven't won a game, I think it is. That obviously needs to end. But also looking forward, we need to get like some kind of good vibes momentum going forward into these two games against Colorado Springs. Because I'll be honest, I really want to enjoy that Dortmund friendly between those two games. And if we're like limping into that second Colorado Springs, having gotten no points out of these next two games, I'm going to be more concerned with like who's playing and are they fit in that Dortmund game than I am going to be with enjoying it, because we're going to need to win that Colorado Springs game at home. So yeah, I mean, they're hugely important. I don't mean to like put pressure on anybody, but I really think those games are kind of going to set the table for the end of the year.
Yeah, and it's a tough one too. I mean, we'll get into kind of the key matchups and kind of things to account for here. But But I mean, as far as kind of off topic here, as far as kind of with the MLS announcement when it was made, it almost feels like since that announcement was made, it kind of we've kind of I wouldn't say it's kind of brought on the poor form, but it's kind of around that same time we've kind of gone on this winless run too. And to be honest, I mean, obviously we want to get fans at games, we want to get people kind of excited about San Diego Loyal. But I think for most fans, if you aren't kind of a diehard supporter, I mean, at least the performance on the pitch and the kind of results need to be there to kind of help grow the team and kind of get attendances up and get fans there. And I mean, if we go into kind of coming up to that Dortmund game and we still haven't won a game, I think people are maybe being put off coming to that game, which kind of doesn't sound great to say, but ultimately, I mean, performances, results, get people in the seats, get people to games, and you want that kind of buzz about the team, which it seems like with the last kind of run of games, it kind of is slowly fading away a little bit. But kind of key matchups here, kind of storylines I've got. Really, can we bounce back and get a first win? I mean, with this game here, we'll be in 7 games. Can we finally get another clean sheet? I know we've only had 3 all season. Hartford right now conceded the most goals in the whole of USL and have 2 clean sheets. So we're only 1 ahead of them right now. Basically, kind of can we minimize defensive errors? How do we fare without Moon and potentially Guido? We haven't got confirmation that they'll both be out, but more than likely we know they will. And then will we see more of Charlie Adams after his 45-minute cameo? I think Charlie's going to be key to kind of getting us back to where we belong. And then kind of things for Hartford here. Can we dictate the play and not allow Hartford to get their fullbacks high, which again, I think is going to be key. But again, if they can get those fullbacks high, I'm hoping there's space in behind for us to kind of penetrate there. And then really, can we get the first goal and push on from there? And what formation do we see from Nate? Kind of going over those, Dylan, anything else to add or anything else kind of touch on what I've gone over?
Yeah, on the just kind of dictating play and formation we see, I kind of got worried, like really properly worried for the first time after this past game because like you talked about a little bit and we've touched on earlier, in past episodes that earlier this season it did feel as though our approach to the end of games was changing, right? We were more front foot about it. And then to see that like reversion to what we were doing last year under a different head coach, regardless of how one personally may feel about who was actually calling the shots there, makes me wonder if Nate's doubting himself a little bit, which I find concerning. So I guess what I'm getting at is I feel like sometimes he's outthinking himself, you know? And I think part of the reason this 4-2-3-1 has been working for us is because in a lot of ways it's a very fundamental shape in football. Like it doesn't need a lot of these complex movements in order to have good spacing and good solid structure. Like it's built to do those things. So I would like to see us continue the 4-2-3-1 as well. And I'd like to see Nate maybe just like, I don't want to just say have fun because that's like obviously oversimplifying it, but just like it does feel like he's overthinking sometimes, in my opinion. And I'd like to just kind of maybe just do what you want to do and like stop worrying so much about, I don't even know what it is. I'm going on the vibes here. But anyway, that was kind of off tangent. But that's my addition.
I thought you were about to say, I just want to give him a hug and tell him it's going to be okay.
I do. I mean, I do. That's not really my vibe, but I do.
But yeah, I completely get that. I mean, for goodness how long we've kind of played this kind of expansive style, the kind of 3-5-2 with the fullbacks getting high, Koke coming in to kind of get that back four, and then kind of it's been a nice style of play to watch, and again, people love watching us play. And I mean, even with like the 4-4-2 that turned into kind of 3-5-2 last year, that was kind of spoken about as well. And again, all these ideas and stuff are great, but results have to be there as well. You've got to kind of find that kind of nice, perfect kind of harmony between the two. And again, I'm going to say kind of the 4-2-3-1 is kind of the millennial version of the 4-4-2, kind of the bog standard. Everyone uses that, but pretty much growing up, it's kind of a nice, easy formation to use. Haven't got to think too much. Everyone's kind of in the right position, and you can go from there, really kind of basically plug it and play. But I said it's allowed us to play a bit more direct, a bit more kind of, I guess, attacking quickly and not the kind of slow build-up. But again, who knows? I mean, who knows what's best for us? And I think we can sit here and kind of say that we need to do this formation needs to play there and there. But at the end of the day, if you've got these defensive errors, you can play however you want to play. It's not going to get your wins come the end. But then moving in to the predictions here, obviously, we've gone over quite a lot here. Again, still yet to get a prediction right. We were both, I think, somewhat close. You went with, 2-1 last week? which I
Yeah.
thought they got the goal, and I'm like, okay, I'm not too worried here. They got the goal. Dylan may get the first prediction correct here. I had 3-1, so I'm like, okay, maybe we get another goal back here. Both of us have a good chance, but to be honest, 2-2 would have been my second guess last week, although I don't get any points for just thinking that. Dylan, predictions for this week versus Hartford. I'm interested here.
I mean, I'm gonna go 3-1. I just don't see us getting a clean sheet, and I don't mean to be like a doomer about that, but like until I am given a reason to think we'll keep a clean sheet, I probably won't predict another one. I think the offense maybe is finally starting to find it a little bit. We've scored a couple of goals in our last few games. That first one against San Antonio, notably, and then the second one against in our last game against Indy were like real slick moves. That's the kind of stuff I'm wanting to see. So, yeah, I'm gonna go 3-1. I'll go Conway with a brace. I feel like he's starting to find it a little bit. And then Charlie Adams from a free kick, because why not? And then I'll go Amo for Hartford because I'm a big believer in his goal scoring ability.
Okay, that's 3-1. I'm gonna go bold here. I was gonna go really bold, but I'm just gonna go. I mean, this is pretty bold enough. I'm gonna go 5-1. I was gonna go 5-2, but I'm like, I think we can keep Hartford to one goal or less. But I think this is more so me hoping that we kind of Nate gets it drilled into the guys. We kind of turn things around and kind of make a statement victory. But yeah, I'm gonna go 5-1. I'm gonna go we'll go with Ronaldo 2 goals. We'll go Conway 1 goal. We'll go Perez 1, and then we'll go with a Cam Riley goal, maybe from a corner or something. And then for them, I'll probably go Sadie. He's looked pretty good in that Luton game so far, and I'm a little bit worried about his kind of counter-attacking ability against us. So yeah, I'm hoping for a good game. I hope for a win. To be honest, my last few weekends have pretty much been ruined by San Diego Loyal not winning, and I would like to have a nice weekend, after the kind of holiday coming up. But Dylan, anything else to add here before we wrap things up?
Yeah, well, a couple things. So this Hartford's game tonight has actually been abandoned, it looks like. If anyone was keeping track while we're recording this, so I guess that's not as relevant. But anyway, I did want to just say our home victory over Hartford last season, 3-0 win in June, was one of my favorites. Partially because it was a great performance, and also because that was the game that Hartford's coach got a red card and then went up into the stands and was shouting down to the bench from there, Mr. Harry Watling. I'll always remember that anyway. But then I also wanted to say the Millennial 442 you said about the 4-2-3-1, that's like poetry. That's perfect. I couldn't describe it better myself. So I'm going to put that in the episode title if I remember to do it when I upload it. So yeah, those were there was one more thing I wanted to add, but I don't remember what it was. So.
It was either the Gen Z or Millennial. I was like, Gen Z.
Yeah, no,
makes
Millennial,
more.
because it's like the early aughts, right? It's like the Jose Chelsea team is really what made it popular.
Yeah, so like I said, it's pretty much. I mean, it's almost. I mean, the Gen Z 4-4-2. It feels like it's going to be the 3-5-2 nowadays with the whole USL and how they're playing recently. But I'm looking forward to the game. I usually look forward to the games that I think kind of my viewing experience recently has been great with the Loyal, and hopefully it changes around soon. I think just for myself and everyone. But we'll see. But again, thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you guys very soon.